Gotcha.
All right, cool. All right. Welcome to the Two Words for Your podcast. I'm your host, Rimp, Robert Rimpson. Uh, your boy Country. He was busy, had some stuff to do. So, he went ahead and gave your boy the keys to the show today. Uh, Today or yesterday's Raw was a big enough deal that I decided to go ahead and do the show solo dolo. So let's get right into it, really. Last week's show was huge. Uh, Usually we do the show from top to bottom. We stop at the top, start at the top of the card, and then work our way down. But I think today is a special occasion, and I want to experiment with some things. So let's start with literally what happened. The most important thing that happened: that Seth CM Punk main event in a steel cage match, huge match, big match, great match. It was a very physical match. I think CM Punk at some point during the match, he took a nasty bump on the steel cage, fell down the steel cage. His face got super red. We had a lot of kicking out of finishers in this one. I don't necessarily like that too much. I think even the Undertaker says people kick out of two finishers too much in this day and age. But we had a lot of kicking out of finishers. Seth kicked out of I think two go to sleeps. That was crazy. CM Punk kicked out of a stomp. Um, Seth even did a super stomp during the match, but CM Punk didn't kick out of that one. So we had a lot of finishers kicking out. So they treated this one as like a huge pay-per-view main event, which I don't. Uh, I expected that, to be honest, because it's in Madison Square Garden. It's on Raw. It's a huge pay-per-view like main event. You got Seth, CM Punk. It main evented the first ever Raw on Netflix. So them treating it kind of like a pay-per-view main event is par for the course at this point. Wrestling wise, just the match itself, I liked it. I didn't love it. I think I loved their first match more than I did this second one, the steel cage iteration. Just from a wrestling standpoint, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. It was good, but it wasn't great. But the psychology of the match itself was fantastic, as you can expect from CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Just talking about some of the psychology, you had Seth during part of the beginning of the match. The door opens in the steel cage, as you have happened in a steel cage match. They open the door for you sometimes. He opens the door and points to CM Punk and says, "Hey, leave like you always do," giving him the chance, kind of mocking him, really, leaving, saying, "Hey, if you want to leave like you always do, leave the company, abandon us, take off." He didn't say those words exactly, but he was kind of challenging him, making fun of him. And of course, CM Punk gives him the finger, and they continue the match a little bit. Da da da. Fast forward a bit, we had CM Punk do the same thing to Seth Rollins. Opens the door, says, "Leave if you want to." Now, his whole thing wasn't necessarily leave like you always do, or kind of making the point of, "Oh, Seth, you're always leaving." That was kind of Seth's point to CM Punk. But I think CM Punk's point in doing that was more of saying, "Hey, anything you can do, I can do better than you," quite frankly. Um, so the psychology of the match was great. We had guys kicking out of finishers, obviously. So we get to the super stomp. So let's fast forward a little bit more. We get to the super stomp. Seth does the super stomp. Oh, and even before that, we had Punk in the middle of the match after, and this is where the psychology is working. The door is open. CM Punk, I think, hit Rollins with like two GTSs in a row, and he's about to leave. He thinks about leaving the door. He's got the door open. He's thinking about leaving because he can't pin him. He's kicking out of finishers. He can't pin him. So he's thinking about just walking out. And as he's thinking about it, Seth kind of gets on his knees, kind of last stand, last bit of defiance left, and says, "Hey, if you want this for me, if you want to take my home, if you want to take this ring, if you want to take the main event, come take it from me. Come take it from me. Come pin me like a man. Come make me tap out like a man." And CM Punk falls for it, honestly. And again, the psychology of this match is great. Seth kind of planting that seed early of, if you leave, you're a coward, or if you leave, everything I've said about you is right. Kind of plant the seed further that CM Punk would be hesitant about leaving the cage match. So that's not, that was great psychology there. CM Punk decides not to leave, but of course, when he goes to try and finish Seth off, Seth reverses. We get a stomp, kick out, super stomp. And now Seth is kind of just admiring his work a little bit. He's thinking about doing some more damage. He does the super stomp. Obviously, he could pin him if he wanted to, but I think he wants a little bit more. He wants to make sure. He said it during I forget when it was, but he said it, I think it was before the Elimination Chamber match. He said, I'm going to make sure the same way I did it to Roman, I'm going to do it to CM Punk. I'm going to make sure he doesn't make it to WrestleMania. So I think he's thinking about doing some major damage. We have this great camera work by the crew. All of a sudden, we hear crowd noise, but we don't know what's going on. The doors open to the cage because, Seth is by the cage. The refs are obligated to open the door. The door is open. Seth is near there. He's about to pounce on CM Punk, maybe. And here comes a Samoan arm, grabbing him by the neck and pulling him out of the ring, throwing him on the ground, giving him the match. And it's revealed that OTC, the only tribal chief, the original tribal chief, the one tribal chief, Roman Reigns, he's the one that pulled Seth out, winning him the match and actually costing the match for CM Punk. He then attacks Seth, goes ballistic on him, hits a spear, hits him with the stomp also, which is crazy because now we have 3 guys that hit a stomp during the main event, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. And then Roman is out for revenge. So he puts Seth's head on the steel steps. He's about to stomp him just like Seth did to Roman during the Royal Rumble. Roman's about to do it, but then here comes Adam Pearce. Here comes security. They put a stop to everything. And then we also get this moment after the match where Paul Heyman is there. And I didn't even see Paul Heyman come out of the crowd or come down with the officials, but he's in the ring checking on CM Punk. Roman sees this, goes and attacks CM Punk as well. And that was your main event. Okay. All that to say, this pretty much 100% confirms we're getting Punk, Rollins, Roman Reigns as maybe a main event, but it's going to happen at WrestleMania. We're getting a triple threat match, much to country chagrin. We're getting a triple threat match, and we're probably getting 2 triple threat matches at WrestleMania, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. As far as this match itself, the triple threat match, it makes complete and utter sense to me. All 3 of these guys have reasons to hate each other, despise each other, want to fight each other. CM Punk and Roman Reigns are fighting over Paul Heyman. It seems like that's the angle they're going to go with. Punk obviously has beef with Seth Rollins, and Rollins is obsessed with Punk. We also have Roman, who's kind of obsessed with Seth Rollins. Now, Seth, his focus is more on CM Punk, but we've got Roman Reigns here, whose focus is on Seth Rollins. I mean, he did cost him the Universal Championship. In a way, he kind of cost him the Royal Rumble. He tried to put him out so he couldn't make it to WrestleMania. So, Roman Reigns has reason to beef with these 2 guys. Those 2 guys have reason to beef with Roman Reigns. So a triple threat makes all the sense in the world to me. And that got confirmed. And I think this match should be a fantastic match. I think a huge discussion around this match will be whether or not it main events. And you're in a really tough spot if you're Triple H, because you've got 3 certain main event matches and only 2 main event spots, which is insane in and of itself. 2 main events already is like a lot. But now you've got 3 main event matches and only 2 main events. You've got Jey Uso versus Gunther, which is, you could argue it's not necessarily a main event worthy match, but he won the Royal Rumble, and that guarantees you a ticket to the main event of WrestleMania. That's what they say when they promote it, when they do the promo, when they do the commercials for the Royal Rumble. A main event spot at WrestleMania is what's on the line. That's what they say is on the line. Jey Uso won. He should main event WrestleMania. Also, he's main event Jey Uso, world champion Gunther, all those things. 1 main event match. 2, you've got John Cena, Cody Rhodes. Now, if this were a babyface Cody versus a babyface Cena for the title, I would listen to arguments saying it's not necessarily main event worthy. But now that we've got The Rock involved, now you've got a heel John Cena involved, and plus the WWE title is on the line, I don't think there's any way this match isn't a main event match. So that's two main event matches. And now you've got Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins. Obviously, when you've got three guys of that caliber in one match, three guys who are huge draws like that in one match, and you have the guy that's headlined every WrestleMania for like 3 or 4 years in the match, that match is going to be main event worthy. There's no title on the line, which is an argument against it being the main event, but it's not really that much of an argument. I mean, this match is generating buzz even without a championship on the line. So they've got a real tough decision to make when it comes to whether or not what they pick to be the main event. If I were Triple H, it might be time to do away with the Royal Rumble guaranteeing a main event spot in WrestleMania. Maybe that was never a thing. Maybe somebody in the comments or somewhere else is going to point out, hey, this guy won the Royal Rumble, but he didn't main event WrestleMania or something like that. Maybe that happens or that's happened before. To my knowledge, every time someone's won the Royal Rumble, they've main evented WrestleMania. Maybe it's time to do away with that now, though, and just put the two matches that are the biggest, the best, and put those two as the main event of the card. But if that ends up not being the case, I mean, like I said, there's no way Cena Rhodes is not main eventing. That's locked. That's a lock. I think one of Jey Uso and Gunther or the triple threat Roman Reigns, Rollins, CM Punk matches is going to be the non-main event here. And it's going to be tough. Both of those matches, I think, are night one. If they do end up main eventing, but it's one of those two. And if I were a betting man, it's probably going to be the triple threat match that's not main eventing. That's not what I would do. I would, again, do the Jey and Gunther match, put that down the card a little bit. But if I were a betting man, I'd say the triple threat match is not going to main event. We can touch on the rest of Raw quickly. Speaking of Jey Uso versus Gunther, we had Jey Uso versus Grayson Waller to open the show. Jey Uso won. We had Grayson Waller and Austin Theory attack him after the match. Jey Uso fights back valiantly, but in comes Gunther, chokes him out. We get another Gunther choking out Jey Uso. The Alpha Academy also see Jey Uso in the back, and they say, "We've got your back." And this build, people are not digging the latest iteration of the build toward WrestleMania. It's kind of a little boring, kind of a little repeatish, but it's par for the course, right? You've got a big heel. He attacks the babyface from behind. Babyface is tired of getting jumped. He gets some friends to help him out. So what's going to happen? I think you're going to get more uniqueness, more unique twists in this build as we get closer to WrestleMania. But for now, they're keeping it plain and simple. I don't hate it. Gunther and Jey can both cut pretty good promos. So I assume at some point they'll see each other in the ring, cut some more promos, maybe fight each other. We might be getting a 6-man tag match in the future. I'm interested to see if Gunther can work together with A-Town Down Under. That dynamic could be interesting. Obviously, Jey Uso and Alpha Academy can get along great because, they've got, as Gunther says, they're both like clown shows or whatever. But that should be interesting dynamic to watch as we get closer to the WrestleMania build. We also had Logan Paul and AJ Styles. It seems like they're going with that as Logan Paul's entry into WrestleMania this year. He's going to be facing AJ Styles most likely. We had Andrew Schultz get involved. Logan Paul kind of throws him over the rails, about to hit him with the suplex. Out comes AJ Styles, hits him with a phenomenal forearm, calls out Logan. Logan walks away. Fine. I'm fine with that. AJ Styles, to me, AJ Styles could be designated as Mr. WrestleMania at this point. He's that good. He reminds me of a Shawn Michaels. He just is ready to go whenever. If you need to give somebody credibility, put him in the ring with AJ Styles because that guy can go. He can make anybody look good. So I don't mind it. And at this point of his career, he's not necessarily. He can be in the main event, but people aren't necessarily clamoring for AJ Styles to be in the main title event picture. So, Logan being in the ring with AJ Styles at WrestleMania isn't something that, disgusts me or anything like that. They're both great in the ring. So they're going to put on a great show. I don't mind that at all. It's going to be good. I expect Logan to win that match, honestly, because I feel like Logan's going to get a pretty big push this year. WWE really believes in that guy, and why shouldn't they? He's generated a lot of heat He's talented in the ring. He will be getting a push, whether we like it or not. And I definitely don't like it, but it is what it is. We also had LWO versus the New Day. Match was good in and of itself. Tornado tag, Rey Mysterio's in it. Got Extreme Rules. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But I think what was most noteworthy about the match was what happened at the end. We had a surprise interference from a mysterious luchador. We have a guy in a U.S. flag kind of luchador mask come out. He does a Hurricane Rana on, was it Dragon Lee? I think it was on Dragon Lee. He handed Karanas. Dragon Lee does a German suplex on him. He does the gracias, a Spanish version of the thank you that Chad Gable does. He's Chad Gable's stature, height, runs out, runs away, doesn't get caught, yet, and costs LWO the match and the New Day win. So we're all of course assuming it's Chad Gable under the mask. I also assume that the Chad Gable, he went away to learn the ways of the luchador in order to defeat them, and all of a sudden we've got this mysterious luchador in like an American-made mask doing his moves, saying his catchphrases but in Spanish. So we all assume it's Chad Gable. Fast forward the show a little bit. Kathy Kelly confronts him, saying, "Chad, that was definitely you." He says, "No, it wasn't me." He swears up and down it wasn't him. And as he's getting confronted about it, of course, in the background, we see security taking away said luchador in the same exact outfit. He's got the mask on, he's got the hoodie on, same height and stature or whatever, and they take him away. So it appears, at least, that the mysterious American luchador isn't Chad Gable. Now, am I necessarily buying that? I don't think so. I think it is Chad Gable. Ultimately, maybe he paid someone to take the fall for him, to take the brunt for him, just so it looks like it's not him, to draw intrigue. People are rumoring that it's not Dragon Lee, Ray Phoenix, former AEW guy, one half of the Luchador brothers, Lucha Brothers. I think they're just Lucha Brothers. That's Penta and Ray Phoenix, obviously, are the Lucha Brothers. I don't necessarily buy that theory too much. I don't understand why Ray Phoenix would be doing any favors for Chad Gable. I doubly don't understand why he would be attacking Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio unless he's working heel. I've never seen any Ray Phoenix heel work. So, I mean, it could be, but I doubt that. I mean, in my mind, if you're signing Ray Phoenix, you're signing him so that him and Penta can go dominate the tag team division. So I don't know why he would be working heel. So I don't necessarily buy Ray Phoenix as the mysterious luchador. I think more likely maybe it's some NXT call-up, maybe some Evolve call-up that Chad Gable hires to kind of throw off the scent, throw off the trail so that people don't think it's him when it really is him. So we'll see. It's very intriguing. It's very funny, to be honest. I like the twist. We'll see where they go with that. Chad Gable is a good worker, so anything they decide to do with him, I'm great with that. Bailey versus Raquel. So we kind of have some number one contenders match kind of for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. You had Judgment Day, of course, interfere in the match, and Raquel beats Bailey, in a match that was okay. I think my takeaway mostly from this match, though, is that Bailey is losing a lot lately. She lost to, I think it was a tag team match. She got pinned by Roxanne, which I thought was great for Roxanne. But now she's getting pinned by Raquel, who's more of a mid-carder. So that's concerning for me. If you're someone that's a fan of Bailey and wants to see her in the main event again, that's a little concerning. It just feels like Bailey as a babyface right now is a little stale. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I thought it'd be a cool twist to have her kind of behind the Jade, the Jade attack. Her and Naomi be behind the Jade attack. That could give her I thought that could give her a new twist, give her a reason to go heel. She does some of her best work as a heel. But they decided to keep her babyface, and I just don't know how much juice Bailey has as a babyface at this point. Even her WrestleMania run against Io Like a lot of her being over, a lot of the pop that she got was more because of how dramatic that fallout was with Damage Control. And now that she doesn't have that anymore, like what's her identity as a baby face? Like she's the role model. Role model was more kind of a heel thing, that she didn't want to be a role model or whatever. But now that she's a baby face, I don't really know what her identity is anymore. So we'll see. Um, as far as Raquel goes, it seems like her becoming Intercontinental Champion is a foregone conclusion. I feel like, or at least I see it in her future. Triple H likes her a lot. She was an NXT champion, a women's NXT champion in the past. She's won the tag team titles like 3 times now. So I feel like her getting the mid card belt is, I mean, you know, it'd be par for the course. I feel like for me. Um, we'll see. Her and Lyra can have a really good match. Lyra can usually have a good match with anybody, so we'll see. Looking forward to that match. We had the Io Sky promo, which went very well. I feel like we had her, kind of Bianca going head to head, confronting each other. Bianca kind of saying, "Oh, it wasn't my fault that Rhea Ripley lost that match. She was distracted. I had nothing to do with it." And then, of course, we get Rhea Ripley's music hits, and here she comes. She comes out. She confronts Bianca, saying, "Why were you even out there if you weren't trying to distract me?" Bianca's rebuttaling. They kind of argue back and forth. And while they're arguing, Io Sky is trying to get them to stop. And Rhea mushes her face, kind of just puts her hand in her face and pushes her back. And I thought, oh, that's not going to go well. But it kind of passes. The moment kind of passes. Rhea and Bianca keep arguing. And while Bianca's yelling, she inserts herself this time. She's like, "Guys, stop arguing." And this time, Bianca mushes her face. And at this point, Io kind of snaps. She spazzes. She crashes out, however you want to say it. She pushes Rhea, slaps her in the face, then pushes Bianca, slaps her in the face, and kind of throws a temper tantrum in a sense. Like, "I'm the champion. Y'all should be respecting me. You will respect me. I'm the champion. I'm going to WrestleMania. It doesn't matter whatever it is that you're two arguing about." So that to me also confirms that we're getting another triple threat match at WrestleMania. We're getting Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. And I don't hate that at all. Again, Country hates it. Country hates triple threat matches. So, he's not a big fan of the booking there. But I love it. Again, we've got 3 women at the top of their game. Bianca, Rhea, obviously, and then Io, who's like a super surprise to me. I mean, she did well in NXT, obviously, but I thought the kind of language barrier and some of her style, I mean, her style obviously would translate because she's like a high flyer. American audiences love high flyers or whatever. But, I doubted that her being a main eventer would translate to the main roster, and it has. And it has. So good for her. She's obviously emerged as one of the main event talents. And putting these 3 in a match together is fine by me. It's fine by me. So I don't mind it at all. How would I book the match is a great question. I might have, you might have Rhea Ripley win that match, kind of have her overcome the struggles that she's had with Io. That would make a lot of sense to me. You could have Io still win the match and then kind of do that storyline down the line, as Io as the champion, have her and Rhea go back and forth for a couple more months after WrestleMania. You could book it that way. Would I book Bianca as champion? You could do that, but if you do that, you're gonna have Bianca staying on Raw most of the time as the women's champion over there. That puts her away from Jade, which you could do, but I kind of like the idea of her and Jade feuding at some point, so maybe I wouldn't do it that way. But again, I think this match will be really good. It's for the title. It's a lot on the line here. Makes sense. All 3 of these women super talented, so we'll see. And then we talked about Seth versus Punk. All right, about the show altogether. I thought it was a good episode of Raw. I expected a little bit. Oh, Cody also cut a promo about Cena. I mean, it was kind of, if you saw SmackDown and saw Cody cut the promo on SmackDown, then you kind of saw the promo that he cut on Raw. He's calling out John Cena, saying, "Why aren't you here? You said you would always be here, and you're not here. I am your replacement. I'm going to beat you at WrestleMania." That's why I didn't really want to talk about it too much because he did the same thing that he did on SmackDown. But overall, like the Raw this week. Um, I think a lot of people expected John Cena to be here just because it was in Madison Square Garden. Is this the last time he's going to be in Madison Square Garden? I don't know. They could have booked it that way if they wanted to, but they didn't. So he's obviously out of the country right now. He will be in Belgium. I think that's where the next Raw is or the next SmackDown. I can't remember, but he will be there. So that'll be something. But we're not seeing a lot of John Cena right now, which is fine for his heel character, maybe even great for his heel character. Because in an interview he did with Chris Van Vliet a long time ago, he said something to the effect of, "When I did turn heel, I was going to be showing up less. I was going to be less reliable. I wouldn't have respect. I would give up more." And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing Cena not show up as much. We're seeing him not be reliable, not having respect, and not showing loyalty. So I think this is par for the course for his heel character. I'm interested to see what kind of gear he'll be wearing. Um, on WWEshop.com, they have a Belgium version. It's like a maroon kind of burgundy thing for when he shows up in Belgium. The last time is now a kind of Belgium version. And it's kind of just like the same thing he's been doing. Just take whatever city he's in, grab their favorite color, put the "You Can't See Me" or "The Last Time Is Now" on the shirt, and then print them out and send them that way. So they might not be changing his attire as much as a heel, which is fine by me, I guess. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Speaking of merch, okay, if you see right below my name there, you'll see a link for WWEshop.com. If you end up buying John Cena merch, okay, if you want to buy John Cena merch, if you want to buy WWE title belts, if you want to buy Cody Rhodes underwear or something like that, and you're doing it on WWEshop.com, use this link, okay? Because if you use this link and buy it, you support the show. Wow. If you buy WWE merch using this link right below me, right here, we get a cut of the profits there. You support the show. Support the show. Get your merch. It's a win-win. So do that right there. WWEshop.com. If you're buying John Cena merch, do it here. Okay? Right here. Great. Okay. Did that. And that was Raw. That's fine. Cool. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed or not. Country's not here. And you know what that means? That means we can talk about AEW. And I will be talking about AEW. Because this past Sunday? I think it was Sunday. Yes. This past Sunday, we had AEW Revolution. Huge pay-per-view, great pay-per-view. Okay? I want to pull up the card, actually, because I do not want to forget anything. AEW Revolution 2025. Because I want to talk about AEW. We never get a chance to do it because Country does not watch AEW as much. I think he watched a couple of clips from this pay-per-view, which is fine, but I want to talk about it in depth. So here we go. Starting off with MJF versus Hangman Adam Page. All right, this was a great match. MJF, obviously, fantastic wrestler. Hangman, obviously, a great wrestler as well. We saw those two going at it. Pretty big grudge match, but we saw Hangman Adam Page come out on top. He hits a Fallen Angel, which is Christopher Daniels' move on MJF, and it was very nasty. MJF landed face first. I don't think he was supposed to do that. So that definitely hurt. Fantastic match. MJF always puts out great matches, but it just kind of sucks to see MJF lose right now because to me, he's like the biggest draw in AEW, and he needs to be having the title like right now, in my opinion. People are kind of bored with the main title scene in AEW. Well, the men's main title scene anyway. And MJF being the champion can fix a lot of that, in my opinion. And the more you have him lose, the longer it's going to take for him to get to the title. And that's not good for business, in my opinion. Hangman Adam Page, though, is good for business. He's one of the biggest baby faces in the company right now. His whole character arc of being this super arch villain that burns down people's childhood homes into this kind of anti-hero, hero character that's no nonsense. That's kind of a cowboy, Western throwback kind of guy. People are eating it up. So I'm not super surprised that he went over on MJF here. I just hate it because I want MJF to win the title eventually because the main title scene is boring right now. Maybe Hangman Adam Page can be the guy to dethrone Moxley, but it seems like that's going to take a while to develop as well. So like that match, did not like the result, but also didn't hate the result. Mercedes Moné versus Momo Watanabe. I don't have too much to say about this match, but Mercedes Moné, formerly known as FKA Sasha Banks, has been doing fantastic work. Ever since she's gotten to AEW, really ever since she's won the TBS championship, she just puts on banger after banger after banger with whoever they put her in the ring with. She's done fantastic. Every match is great. Have her keep winning. Give her all the belts. She has like 4 belts right now. Give her like a 5th or something. Make it ridiculous. Like she deserves all the belts. Make her defend them all. She's great at wrestling, and keep doing that. A number 1 contenders match for the AEW Championship: Swerve versus Ricochet. Another great match. Ricochet, obviously a great worker. Swerve, great worker. And then you had the added element of Swerve trying to get back Prince Nana's robe. Great match. Ricochet doing some of the best work of his career, in my opinion, as a heel, just being the annoying, kind of unnecessarily cocky, annoying heel right now. Cutting good promos to boot. Just kind of being super corny and leaning into it. People love that. People calling him bald. The match obviously was fantastic. All the moves. I think Ricochet hit his 630 square clean, and Swerve kicked out of that. That was crazy. Yeah, just a lot. There was a lot of kicking out of finishers in this match as well. But I didn't hate it as much in this one, just because it wasn't consecutive as much. Like with the Punk Rollins match, I think Punk hit like 2 GTSs or something, and when he pinned Seth Rollins, he just kind of kicked out. It just felt super weird. Um, and I like kicking out of finishers when it feels like it could be the end of the match. We were like 10, 15 minutes into what was obviously a 30-minute main event when Punk hit his like second GTS, and I just knew that wasn't it. He was going to kick out. So I don't necessarily mess with that. I don't like kicking out of finishers when it's predictable. This match, I thought it was a little bit less predictable. Like whenever Ricochet hits that 630, that's usually the end of it. So I like the kicking out there. And then we also had Ricochet kicking out of house call, 2 house calls, by the way. I thought that was the end of the match. He kicks out, and then Swerve hits big pressure, pins Ricochet, gets back the robe, becomes the number 1 contender, which we will talk about in a little bit. But that was a great match. We had Okada versus Brody King. This was a fine match. I don't necessarily care for the AEW Continental Championship. I don't care for it because I don't really get it. Like, it's supposed to be this belt that you get for winning the tournament. I mean, I kind of get it. It's like a tournament belt, but you can also win it without winning the tournament. It just feels weird to me. It feels like no one is ever going to win that belt unless they win the tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like, what kind of booking sense would it make for someone to just beat Okada straight up and then lose to the guy that won the tournament or something like it's weird to me. Like, it feels like the only way to earn the belt is for them to win the tournament. You know what I'm saying? So matches like these where they're obviously outside of the tournament, it just doesn't feel like there's any like suspense. You know what I'm saying? Like Okada's gonna win. He's gonna win because it's not the tournament winner yet. There's no chance that this guy's losing. But it was a great match. I think it was a fine match. Brody King is good. I like barking. He does the barking thing, so I like doing that too. It was a fine match. Okada's good. There's not much to say. We had the Hurt Syndicate versus the Outrunners. I mean, there's not too much to say about that to me. It was a good tag team match. It was fine. The Outrunners are goofy and funny, so I like when they do stuff. I just feel like it's hard to take them seriously ever. I don't know if you can take them seriously ever. but you're not really meant to. I don't think so. Fine match. The Hurt Syndicate retain. We hurt people. That's fine. Tony Storm versus Mariah May. Okay, this match was insane. I think I tweeted this out after I watched it. This was probably the most brutal women's match I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen so much blood in a women's match. I've never seen so much glass. Glass, I don't know if it's real or not, but in a women's match, it was just brutal from like start to finish. I showed this match. It was so brutal. Like I showed it. So a little backstory. My fiance, every time there's some sort of no disqualification, no rules, Hell in a Cell match, she's calling for people to pull out tax. Okay, because I showed her the Mick Foley, Mankind versus Undertaker match, Hell in a Cell, and they used tax then, and she liked it. Obviously, I mean that match, Undertaker, Mankind, Hell in a Cell, obviously a classic, and she liked that. So every time that someone has a chance to pull out tax, she wants people to pull out tax. So I show her this match thinking, oh, she wants to see brutality. We'll show her this one. Dude, from like the moment they pull out those buckets of glass, her look the entire time was sheer horror. Okay. Because that's how brutal this match was. I mean, they're taping glass to their fists and then punching each other with it. Tony Storm at one point kind of scrapes a Mariah May's forearm with glass shards. That was insane. Um, they do, was it a Storm Zero? I forget, but it was some move off the top rope into a bunch of glass just on the apron, and that made everybody cringe. Oh my goodness. Then we had Mariah May doing a low blow with the glass bottle, and it breaks. That was insane. And then we get one of the most like cinematic, beautiful slash horrific shots of Tony Storm just laying down on the canvas, bleeding profusely. It's not even like it's just one. It's just it looked ugly. Like usually you kind of get like this mask of blood, and that's one thing. But it wasn't a mask of blood. It was like ribbons of blood on her face, and it just looked ugly but beautiful at the same time. It was horrific in a good way. And then of course we get probably the most brutal spot in the match. Tony Storm taking that heel, that stiletto. Well, it wasn't necessarily a stiletto because it wasn't as pointy, but she takes that heel and just smashes it into Mariah May's skull over and over and over again. Storm Zero into the table, end of the match. It was brutal. It was bloody. Probably the most brutal thing I'll see for the rest of the year. But fantastic match, and a fantastic feud, to be honest. Um, Takashita versus Kenny Omega. That was a good match. Good for Kenny Omega. He won the international title. Good to see him back. Good to see him get a win over Takashita. Um, we'll see. I'm looking forward to more Kenny Omega. I miss Battle Cry though. I miss his old entrance music. I want that back, but people won't like that as much. I don't care. Steel cage match: Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher. Will Ospreay always puts on like 5-star matches, in my opinion. Like he's the best. He might be the best, like pound for pound wrestler in the business right now. And so he put on a fantastic match against Kyle Fletcher. There were attacks in this match actually. So and then the spots were brutal. Huge off cutter off of the cage, I think, off of the top of the cage, maybe. Oh, they did do a Spanish fly off the top of the cage. That was insane and brutal. So great match for Will Ospreay. He's also another guy that if he wins, he could help propel the championship to new heights. I'm super surprised they haven't put the world championship belt on Ospreay already. If I were Will Ospreay, I'd probably start like he might not be this kind of guy. If I were him, I would start politicking to become the champion, the world champion. There is no reason why Will Ospreay is not world champion right now. Like it made sense when he was fighting Swerve and he had just gotten there, so they didn't really want to put the belt on him too early. But he's been here long enough. He's won enough matches. He's put on enough great shows to where he should be champion by now, in my opinion. There's There is no reason he should not be champion, in my opinion. Especially not over John Moxley, which we will get to right now. The AEW World Championship match, Cope versus John Moxley. This match was largely forgettable, in my opinion. Um, I mean, I like Edge, Adam Copeland, Cope, but I mean, it was just like a run of the mill match uh, to me. You had Wheeler Yuta kind of come out and do the kind of predictable thing of not turning on John Moxley. I think we all kind of saw that coming. But you did have Christian cash in his kind of contract, pseudo Mr. Money. What did they call it? Cashing in his contract. I don't know what kind of contract it is. I forget what they call it. Was it the call your shot thing? Maybe. Christian cashes in, making it a three-way. But he hits a spear, tries to pin Adam Copeland. He kicks out. Then here comes John Moxley. He chokes out Christian, retains the title. And that, I mean, that in of itself rubbed people the wrong way. People did not like that Christian cashed in and failed. It just felt super anticlimactic. It also feels like that Moxley has a stranglehold on the AEW title right now, which is, I mean, it's good if your heel's doing good work and he has a stranglehold on the championship. That's good. The reason people are not happy about it is because they are not liking this, at least on the internet. They do not like this Death Riders storyline that's going on with John Moxley right now. And I don't necessarily blame them. Like, it's kind of just been forgettable. Like, when it first got revealed or when they were first introducing it, they made it seem like it was going to change AEW. Like, he was going to flip it upside down. He was going to do things that wasn't necessarily going to be done, kind of tear AEW down, by tear the roof down, tear it down by the pillars, tear everything apart, make things different, do something crazy. And it's just been kind of the run of the mill faction has the world title right now kind of build. And it's been kind of boring, honestly, in my opinion. It doesn't help that we can't see the title right now. Like, he's got it in a briefcase. I don't know what the point of that is. I mean, you're in one sense adding to the prestige of the title by having people not see it. So people will pop huge when they do see it. But also, like, on the flip side, the longer not the longer you don't show that title, but every time you don't show that title, the title's not on screen. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the longest time, I had no idea where the AEW title was ever because it was never getting shown. I wasn't paying attention to AEW at the time. So it's just like, why is no one ever holding this belt? Why don't I ever see pictures of anybody holding this belt? It's because John Moxley's got it locked away in a suitcase. So I don't know. I think people were expecting a huge payoff with this Death Riders storyline, and it's just been kind of the run of the mill, kind of faction story. And people weren't expecting that. People were expecting something different. They were promising something different, and that's not what they're getting. Cut to the end of the match, though, we get Swerve first Prince Nana confronts Moxley. Then we get Swerve stomping Moxley from the balcony. So that was cool. I think Swerve versus Mox could make for some good matches. I think people will get behind Swerve a lot, as they have. Swerve is definitely a main event guy. So I think it could be fine. If you're gonna have Moxley have this much of a stranglehold on the belt, I don't know if the payoff should be Swerve Strickland winning the belt. I don't know if that's what it should be. I think whoever wins this belt has to be not one of the top guys, not kind of the top guy, the top guy, the best guy in the business. Your quarterback, like your Cody Rhodes, has to be the one to take the belt from Moxley, in my opinion. Is that Swerve? I just don't think so. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong. He's charismatic. He's cool. His theme song is awesome. He's puts on great matches. So he could be, and he's been champion before. So he could be, but I don't know. I don't think so. But overall, I thought it was a really good pay-per-view. A lot of great matches. Maybe the most brutal women's match I've ever seen. Put the belt on Will Ospreay. Put the belt on MJF. Maybe put the belt on Swerve. But like this Death Riders thing, I'm gonna need to see a big payout, big payoff from this to call it any sort of success. Because right now it has been just boring, pretty much. Okay, so last week we had a discussion about what were the top heel turns in wrestling or in WWE. And I think Country and I think everybody gave their top three, their top five heel turns, and I wanted to give my top 14. Okay, because I made a huge list. I thought about it a lot, and I think WrestleOps tweeted out that WWE had made a list of the top heel turns, and I could not disagree with that list more. That list was bad, in my opinion, really, really bad. So I made a good list. Okay. Uh, should we start at the top or at the bottom? You know what? Here's what I'll do. I have my top 14 here. I think I'll only discuss my top five, and then we'll save the rest for another day. At number 5, I have Prince Devitt turning heel to form the Bullet Club as my number 5 best heel turns in wrestling. Now, I forgot to give this disclaimer. These are the best heel turns in wrestling, not just in WWE. Technically, Hogan becoming the third man, that happened in WCW, which is now part of WWE, but that happened in WCW. Okay. So if we're talking all of wrestling, that includes Ring of Honor, that includes New Japan, that includes TNA, that includes GCW. Okay, all those things, and WWE, obviously. So if these are the biggest heel turns in wrestling, I think Prince Devitt turning heel to form the Bullet Club has to be on there, just because of how mainstream the Bullet Club became. It really, like, the Bullet Club helped propel New Japan into like American audiences, because the American audiences loved the Bullet Club. Loved the Bullet Club. The Bullet Club obviously turned into the Elite. The Elite turned into All Elite Wrestling. You also had the Bullet Club turning into Bullet Club Gold, which is now the Bang Bang Gang in AEW. You also had the Bullet Club give you the Gorillas of Destiny, which turned into Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, who are now in WWE, who are part of the new bloodline. So the Bullet Club, not to mention AJ Styles came from the Bullet Club, Kenny Omega came from the Bullet Club, Jay White came from the Bullet Club, like all these guys. This does not happen if Prince Devitt doesn't form the Bullet Club by turning heel in New Japan. So that's at my number 5. Number 4, I have Steve Austin turning at WrestleMania 17. Now, this one is weird because it's almost purely off of the moment. Like the effect that it had on the business, on the company at the time, on storylines at the time, it was kind of negligible, because I think Steve got hurt a little bit after this, if I recall correctly. So it didn't really go too far as far as what it did for the company. I mean, it's not like, like I mentioned before, the Bullet Club was kind of like a cultural shift kind of thing. Steve Austin shaking hands with Vince McMahon didn't do that. Even Steve Austin said in an interview, I think he said in a couple interviews, that he wishes he had stayed babyface at WrestleMania 17. He wishes he would have just stunned Vince McMahon instead of shaking his hand at WrestleMania 17. So even he kind of regrets it to a point. But I just think it was just such a huge moment, having the biggest babyface at the time shaking hands with the biggest heel. I think that was such a huge moment, and it happened at WrestleMania 17, where people say was the greatest WrestleMania ever. By the way, they say WrestleMania 17. It was the greatest WrestleMania ever. It was at the greatest WrestleMania ever, in what people see as one of the greatest matches ever. Part of what people say was the greatest build ever, in Stone Cold building up to the Rock the second time at WrestleMania 17. And it ends with maybe one of the greatest heel turns ever, or maybe one of the most shocking heel turns ever. Stone Cold Steve Austin turning to shake hands with Vince McMahon. And it was also kind of people even reference it to this day. Like when people were talking about Cody potentially turning heel and going with The Rock. They wrestled. They mentioned Steve Austin turning at WrestleMania 17. You know, so I think just purely off of the moment and how big of a moment that was, and the surrounding context behind it, I think it deserves a number 4 spot, slightly above 5. I think Prince Devitt turning heel was great culturally. I don't know if it was that big of a moment though. Steve Austin turning was gigantic moment, huge moment. At number 3, I have Seth Rollins being Plan B for Triple H when he turned heel on the Shield. Obviously, huge cultural moment. The Shield, one of the biggest factions at the time, maybe the most over set of guys in the company at the time. And Seth Rollins turning heel on them is referenced constantly, even to this day. Like him turning heel then is having effects on storylines today, storylines that might be main eventing WrestleMania. It had effects on last year's WrestleMania. A lot of people call that match one of the greatest matches of all time. And the ending happens because Seth Rollins Plan B. Obviously, it was a huge moment at the time. The Shield were at the top of their game. Seth Rollins turns heel, super shocking. So obviously, the moment part of it was huge. The impact part of it also super huge because now that we have Seth Rollins turning heel, we've got the 3 Shield members splitting ways, and they each 3 obviously have like gigantic success, winning multiple world championships in multiple companies. By the way, shout out John Moxley. So and Roman Reigns obviously becomes who he is. Seth Rollins becomes who he is, and that doesn't happen without Seth Rollins turning heel, being Plan B. So, I mean, and the Shield reunite at times after that, but I think just the moment combined with the impact it had at the company and on those guys' careers, like that moment could have fizzled out. Who knows what happens if it's Dean Ambrose that turns heel instead of Seth, you know? So, but I think just the effect it had on that guy, on those guys' careers and the moment itself, I think it deserves to be number 3, above Steve Austin turning at WrestleMania 17. I think that was a great moment, but this one has both. It has the moment and it has the impact on those guys' careers, obviously. So number 2, number 1. Out of order, I think it's the top 2 heel turns obviously have to be Hogan being the third man and forming the NWO, and John Cena's latest heel turn. So at the time when it happened, I tweeted that John Cena turning was the biggest heel turn ever. I said, and I thought about it a lot, and I think I changed my mind just a little bit. I take it back slightly. I think John Cena turning is the second biggest heel turn ever. I think Ariel Hawaiian. I always get his last name wrong, but he said on his podcast that the reason it's not the biggest heel turn ever is because it's not the cultural moment and it doesn't have the impact that Hogan's turn had. Um, First of all, if you talk about the moment of itself, Hulk Hogan, perennial good guy, turning evil, turning bad, being the third man to the outsiders, gigantic moment, obviously. The cultural impact, like there's no stable that's had more of a cultural impact than the NWO. Black and white everything, just kind of it like the NWO. You could make the argument that it was a reflection of pop culture at the time, you could also make the argument that it formed pop culture at the time. Like it was cool to be the bad guy. Was it because of the NWO? Was the NWO kind of just reflecting what people already felt at the time? You can make an argument either way, but either way, it was a gigantic part of pop culture, the NWO, and it's even bigger part of pop culture now. You see all the NWO, LWO, TWO, the spinoff shirts or whatever. So, I mean, the impact on culture, the impact it had on Hogan's career, he was kind of fizzling out at the time, and it just completely revitalized his career. The NWO obviously became the biggest thing in wrestling. It propelled WCW over WWE for a while. So, I mean, I don't have to make the argument to you. Okay, you know how big of a deal Hogan being the third man is. And the point Ariel made was that John Cena's heel turn not only does not have that effect yet, it will never have that effect. Is the argument he made? Is that it'll just be? I mean, WWE is already the at the top of everything, so John Cena's heel turn won't do much to uh change wrestling culture or change the business in that way. So it'll never be over Hogan. Nothing will ever top Hogan's heel turn. And that's where I disagree a little bit. I agree that John Cena turning heel isn't over Hogan yet, because of the impact that it had on the business, on the culture, etc. But I think it could be eventually. And I think it could be because of Travis Scott, ironically. Like, imagine this. Go down this road, imaginary road with me, okay? Imagine you're Drake sitting, I don't know what the Canadian Center is called where they did Elimination Chamber, but imagine you're there and you see Travis Scott getting to participate with The Rock and John Cena in slapping Cody Rhodes and being a part of this gigantic moment in wrestling, and how they treat Travis Scott. They've made him a part of The Rock's entrance. They treat Travis Scott like he's a wrestler. He's coming out all the time, doing whatever he wants. He's like Sage in the ring. If you're Drake, you might want to be a part of that now. Just I think that moment, John Cena turning heel and Travis Scott being there, could turn this mainstream. I think. I think Triple H talked about in an interview, not an interview, in the press conference after Elimination Chamber, that WWE isn't competing with other wrestling companies at this moment, or just with other wrestling companies at this moment. I mean, Ariel's right in that sense. Like, WWE is already the top wrestling company ever, so they're not going to flip fortunes in that way. Like, it's not going to be like WWE is going to top AEW. They're already lapping AEW. But I think it could help them top other live events. Like, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson did, like, what was it, 60 million or some ridiculous number on Netflix. WWE isn't touching those numbers right now. So if something like a John Cena heel turn that popped through the mainstream, that had mainstream involvement, that happened in front of Drake, maybe the most famous person, well, at least the most famous rapper right now, if that can help them pop further into the mainstream and top some of these other mainstream entertainment vehicles, maybe it will. You know, now will it? I don't know. I don't know about that, but I think it could. I think it could. So give it time. I think John Cena turning heel could become the biggest heel turn of all time, but it might not. It might not. Right now, it's at number two. Hogan, obviously being the third man, is my number one. Uh, Maybe next week we'll talk about the rest of the list because I have a TNA heel turn on here. I have uh, I have a Ring of Honor heel turn on here. So there's a lot of interesting things on here that a lot of people don't talk about. I also have a woman turning heel. I think I have two women's heel turn on this list because not a lot of people talk about women heel turns for some reason. So I've got two of those on here. Maybe we'll discuss it with Country next week. But yeah, I think that's everything I have for this week's show. Um, Again, if you're buying WWE merch, use this link right here, because if you use this link and buy merch, we get a cut. We get a cut. Support the show. Support the show. Maybe if we, do well enough here, they'll give us promo codes. They might even give us discounts to give out to people. Okay, but use the link if you're going to buy merch. All right. That's it for the podcast. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you. 2 words for your podcast. Shout out to Country. Shout out to everybody listening. Peace out.
Intelligence.